August 20th, 1966. A teenage boy flying a kite on the rugged slopes of Vintém Hill stumbles into a scene that defies all logic. Two men lie dead in the thick brush, dressed in sharp, formal business suits covered by identical waterproof raincoats. But it is their faces that freeze the boy in his tracks. Both men wear crude, heavy lead masks, hand-cut and hammered, fitted tightly over their eyes like blinders against an unimaginable light. There is no blood, no sign of a struggle, and no obvious trauma. The bodies rest peacefully side by side on a bed of palm leaves, looking more like participants in a strange ritual than victims of a violent crime. Beside them sits an empty water bottle and two wet towels. The scene on that desolate overlook in Niterói, Brazil, immediately presents a chilling puzzle. The men came here to wait for something, and whatever it was, it killed them. Local police arrive, and the contamination begins almost instantly. The rugged terrain of Vintém Hill is trampled by curious onlookers, reporters, and careless officers. Footprints are erased. The delicate positioning of the bodies is disturbed. In 1966, forensic preservation in this region is rudimentary at best, and the sheer bizarre nature of the scene overwhelms standard protocol. The authorities treat the site not as a fragile puzzle of evidence, but as a spectacle to be cleared away. The victims are soon identified from documents in their pockets. Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel José Viana are not spies, cult leaders, or criminals. They are ordinary electronic technicians from the town of Campos dos Goitacazes, located miles away. They were known as quiet, intelligent men who spent their days fixing radios and televisions. Their sudden, inexplicable demise leaves their families shattered, desperate to understand why two rational men would march up a mountain to die in the mud. The answer, or at least a terrifying fragment of it, is found in a small notebook recovered from Miguel's pocket. The pages are damp, the handwriting hurried, but deliberate. Investigators lean in to read a cryptic set of instructions that will haunt Brazilian history for decades. The note reads, 1630, be at the agreed place. 1830, swallow capsules. After effect, protect metals. Wait for mask signal. This single scrap of paper shatters the initial theory of a simple robbery or suicide. The note dictates a precise, orchestrated schedule. Manuel and Miguel were following a blueprint. The mention of capsules suggests a chemical catalyst, while the directive to protect metals and wait for a mask signal implies an anticipated encounter with immense energy or radiation. They built the lead masks themselves, specifically to shield their eyes from whatever they believed was coming. To comprehend their mindset, you must look at the era. In 1966, the world was gripped by the space race, rapidly advancing technology, and a feverish obsession with the unknown. In Brazil, a unique cultural synthesis was occurring. Rigid scientific principles were bleeding into esoteric spiritualism. Underground groups of amateur scientists and radio enthusiasts were actively trying to bridge the gap between human engineering and the supernatural, convinced that invisible dimensions could be accessed through the right frequencies. Manuel and Miguel were deeply entrenched in this dangerous subculture. Behind the closed doors of their electronics repair shop, they were not just fixing broken appliances, they were building illicit devices, reading clandestine literature, and conducting fringe experiments. They believed their technical knowledge gave them the keys to unlock hidden realities. Their ambition was profound, but their hubris would prove fatal, leading them away from the safety of their workshop and into the unforgiving wilderness. Retracing their final days reveals a chillingly mundane path to tragedy. 3 days before their bodies were found, the two men boarded a bus for Niterói. They carried a substantial amount of cash, enough to buy a car. Upon arriving, they purchased the identical raincoats and a bottle of mineral water. A local waitress noted they looked nervous, constantly checking their watches. They were men on a strict deadline, terrified of missing an appointment with the unknown. The money they brought with them vanished, never recovered by the authorities. This glaring missing variable introduces a dark alternative. Were they lured to Vintém Hill by charlatans promising esoteric knowledge, only to be poisoned and robbed? The local police, desperate for a simple explanation, latch onto this theory. It provides a neat, earthly motive, but it completely fails to explain the lead masks, the palm leaves, and the bizarre, willing participation of the victims. The absolute failure of the institutional justice system becomes undeniable in the morgue. Despite the notebook explicitly mentioning the ingestion of capsules, the coroner's office botches the autopsy. The bodies are left unrefrigerated for days. By the time the medical examiner attempts to conduct a thorough toxicological screening, the internal organs are too decomposed to test for specific poisons, hallucinogens, or experimental compounds. The most critical piece of physical evidence is destroyed by bureaucratic negligence. The official cause of death is recorded as undetermined. The investigation hits a concrete wall. Without a toxicology report, the police cannot prove murder by poisoning, nor can they confirm an accidental overdose. The files are stamped, the paperwork is filed away, and Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel José Viana are buried. The institution effectively washes its hands of the anomaly, leaving the truth to rot alongside the degraded evidence. But the archive refuses to stay closed. Months later, a search of the men's workshop uncovers a trove of strange materials. Investigators find tools matching the cut marks on the lead masks. They find books on extraterrestrial contact, spirit communication, and the effects of intense luminosity on the human retina. Most damning of all, they find evidence of previous, smaller-scale experiments. The men had been testing explosive devices in their backyard, trying to trigger a reaction. The lead masks were not a sudden, mad inspiration. They were a calculated safety measure based on their warped understanding of physics. In the mid-20th century, rumors circulated through Brazilian esoteric communities about glowing orbs and intense, blinding lights appearing over rural hillsides. Manuel and Miguel were entirely convinced they were going to witness a high-energy phenomenon, one so bright it could incinerate their optic nerves without heavy metal shielding. The police dismissed these workshop discoveries as the ravings of lunatics, refusing to integrate them into the official homicide investigation. The detectives are trapped in a rigid legal framework that only understands earthly motives like greed, jealousy, or revenge. They cannot prosecute a phantom, and they refuse to document an esoteric experiment gone wrong. This willful blindness ensures that the deeper mechanics of the tragedy remain unexplored by the very people sworn to investigate it. A secondary witness emerges, threatening to upend the stagnant police narrative. A local resident of Niterói comes forward, claiming to have seen a brilliant, multicolored, glowing object hovering directly over Vintém Hill on the exact night the men died. The witness describes the object as emitting an intense, silent light before rocketing up into the atmosphere. It is the exact kind of phenomenon the men had built their masks to observe. The authorities bury this testimony. The witness statement is barely documented in the official ledger, treated as a nuisance rather than a clue. The institutional justice system has no mechanism for dealing with anomalous aerial phenomena. By ignoring the witness, the police actively sanitize the record, ensuring that the 1966 lead mask case remains categorized as a mere unsolved double homicide, rather than a catastrophic collision between human ambition and an unexplained event. The families of the deceased are left in a torturous limbo. They are denied the closure of a solved murder, yet haunted by the bizarre implications of the masks and the notebook. The men they loved are reduced to caricatures in the local press, mocked as foolish dreamers or crazy cultists. The human tragedy is entirely eclipsed by the sensationalism of the mystery, stripping Manuel and Miguel of their dignity in death. Decades later, modern forensic analysts review the cold case files, searching for the truth beneath the redacted ink. They focus on the capsules mentioned in the notebook. Given the men's access to electronic chemicals and esoteric underground markets, experts hypothesize they likely ingested a lethal combination of psychedelic compounds and heavy sedatives. The goal was likely to induce a trance state, lowering their heart rates to survive what they believed would be an intense physical transition. The dosage was their fatal miscalculation. Without a proper understanding of pharmacology, Manuel and Miguel engineered their own demise. The raincoats were meant to protect them from the elements while they waited in a drug-induced stupor. The towels were likely for comfort or to wipe away sweat during the intense physiological reaction to the capsules. They lay down on the palm leaves, slipped on the lead masks, and simply never woke up. This modern interpretation paints a devastating picture. There was no murderer lurking in the brush on Vintém Hill. The killer was unchecked curiosity mixed with profound ignorance. The men were victims of their own dangerous experiment, swallowed by the darkness they sought to illuminate. The missing money remains a loose thread, perhaps stolen by an opportunistic scavenger who stumbled upon the bodies before the boy with the kite. The true failure of the 1966 lead mask case lies squarely with the investigative authorities. Had the scene been secured, had the autopsy been performed immediately, the exact chemical nature of the capsules would have been identified. A simple toxicology report could have definitively answered the question that has plagued the archive for over half a century. Instead, incompetence allowed a tragic accident to mutate into a permanent, untouchable myth. The legal system demands finality, but Vintém Hill offers none. The case remains officially open, a glaring anomaly in the Brazilian justice records. It stands as a testament to the limitations of mid-century policing, proving that when law enforcement encounters a scenario entirely outside its paradigm, the resulting friction destroys the evidence. The truth was not hidden by extraterrestrials or spirits. It was erased by muddy boots and a warm morgue. The lead masks still exist, locked away in a police museum, heavy and silent. They are the final, enduring artifacts of a forgotten forensic mystery. Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana looked into the void, expecting a signal that never came. Their story remains a chilling reminder of the lengths to which human beings will go to touch the unknown, and the devastating silence that usually answers back.